Hey guys, so I'm going to talk to you about potatoes today. I've got a whole variety of them that I'm cooking with at the moment. So I wanted to just quickly do this before I run out of potatoes. Okay, so I want to talk about a few aspects of our potatoes, the nutrient profile, the types of prep methods, the types of potatoes, the other kind of nutrients that we find in potatoes, and why you shouldn't be afraid of potatoes. Okay. So I've got the regular potatoes here. I've got sweet potatoes, the purple and the orange variety, and I've also got the little baby potatoes. So we are going to go through each one of them. So just overall, what are potatoes really good for? Besides, what all I hear about potatoes is it's fattening, it's very starchy, it's high carb, it is so fattening for everyone, not good for diabetics, and the list goes on. Okay, so I'm here to just talk about what is good about potatoes and why you should eat them if you actually like eating potatoes. So don't like them, don't force yourself. So what are they high in? We know that they're a source of fiber, calcium, iron. So they are they do contain these. They're not in huge amounts, but what is quite high in potatoes is your potassium. So they have more potassium than a banana. So looking at 100-gram serving here. They are high in vitamin C. Actually, almost half of our vitamin C is daily requirement you can find in a serving of potatoes. We've got a little bit of magnesium as well in these potatoes. I don't know if I mentioned B6 in them as well. They've also a good source of antioxidants. We know that we want antioxidants to fight free radical damage in the body, so aid in helping us to manage chronic diseases of lifestyle. We also, as we age, we get neuronal degeneration, and antioxidants plays a great part in that. They are vegetables or tubers. These are tubers. They're not root vegetables. They are part of an enlarged stem of the potato plant. They have no fat, they contain no salt, and they contain no cholesterol. So why not potatoes in your meals? Okay, the size of the potatoes. So when I look at a portion, a carb portion, and I always like equating to a slice of bread, it would be the size of the sweet potato, so about 100 grams. This is slightly over, it's about 110, but that would be it. This would be 2 servings of potatoes or carb portions, so 2 slices of bread in one potato this size. So as you can see, we know that they're high carb, which means that you have to watch portion sizes because you can easily overeat this. I mean, if I were to chip this, I'd probably get sort of, chips this thick, probably about 9 possibly. So if you think about it, you don't eat 9 chips, a handful of chips. Sometimes you tend to eat a whole half a plate of chips. So there's the danger. Portioning is important. Okay, then I want to just move on to the glycemic index. So this is really important that you pay attention to where you get your source of information from. Try to source South African information because the GI of potatoes varies according to the country and region of where it's grown. So in South Africa, we know these are high GI potatoes. I did see a few, a packet, a few of low GI potatoes at Food Lovers many months back. I didn't bother to buy it because I didn't think it was worth the price. Then we've got low GI sweet potatoes. We've got low GI baby potatoes. So you often hear that people go, oh, we'll never touch a normal potato. It's too fattening and it's not healthy, but I will eat my fill of sweet potatoes. The major difference between, so again, I know this is high GI, this is regarded as low GI, but often the GI doesn't really matter because you don't tend to just bake a potato and just eat it on its own. You're always adding things to it, whether it's a protein, whether it's fat, whether it's other vegetables, and together that brings down the GI. So we talk about glycemic load, and I think that's a subject for another video, because I can waffle on about everything. So back to potatoes. Yeah, so I don't really worry about the GI of the regular potato because I'm always cooking it and eating it with other things in a meal. Um, right. If I want to verse one against the other, I'd say these have much more antioxidant content. Sweet potatoes because of the colors. Okay, it's the purple and the orange versus regular potatoes, which are a really good source of vitamin C and potassium. Okay, so those are your the GI of your potatoes. Serving sizes, back to serving sizes. I said this was equivalent to 2 carb portions. This is 1. And then baby potatoes. This is a carb portion. The size baby potatoes, 2 of them is 1 carb portion. And so 4 of this would equal 1 of these. And your little baby potatoes, the smaller ones than these, usually it would be about 3, but when I weighed this was 4 baby potatoes was 1 serving. So again, not everybody is going to pop their potatoes on a scale and, going to weigh everything, because life is not about weighing your food and counting every gram and every calorie. I don't believe that one should be doing that. So it's nice to just kind of know by just looking at your stuff what a serving size is. So initially, make the effort, take the time to focus on what an actual portion size is and how many you should be eating, and then life should get easier after that, right? So if you're going to have it as a mashed dish, then I would say half a cup, so measuring cups, 125 mils, would be a serving size once you've mashed it and about to eat it or serve it. Let's go to prep methods. So what's the healthiest way to prep your potatoes? Your healthiest prep methods would be baking, steaming in the microwave, steaming using any other way of appliance or on the stovetop. And these would be the 3 versus things like frying, sauteing, roasting, and probably hash browns and mash, depending on what you add to those. So those can be healthy and can be unhealthy depending on how much of other ingredients you're adding to it: the butter, the margarine, any oils, what type of milk you're probably adding to it, if you're adding any milk, whether you're going to add cheese to it. So those are all going to pick up the kilojoule content of that potato. So often people say potatoes are fattening, but I think it's the things that you add to the potatoes that actually make them fattening, and I think that works for rice and pasta as well. So if we are going to prepare them, try to keep the skin on, because the skin is also rich in potassium and it's rich in vitamin B6, so you're going to find that in the skin itself. So folate as well. So the skin, when you preparing your potatoes, try to keep the skin on if you're deciding to boil or steam them, because you're going to possibly lose most of the vitamin C, the vitamin B6, and the small amount of calcium that's in there. So these are water soluble, and you will lose quite a bit of them. So try to keep the skin on to preserve some of this. And if you're going to, right, and also another thing is, if you're going to soak your potatoes, because people often cut them up, they skin them, cut them up and soak them, often to avoid them browning. So try not to do that. Try to prep your potatoes just before you cook it, because when you put it in the water, you're going to lose the vitamin C, you're going to lose B6, and a little bit of calcium. Now, I just want to make a special note here and say that when we talk about people with kidney issues or some heart issues, where you have to watch the potassium levels, we do encourage patients to, if they're going to be eating potatoes, they want to leave it off, or they don't want to restrict themselves, that they need to soak these potatoes in water so it leaches out as much of the potassium as possible. But like you can see, you're going to get the vitamin C coming off there, and the B6, and a little bit of calcium. So if you don't need to leach your potatoes of the potassium, please do keep the skins on, or do not soak them as well. Then I want to talk about the fiber. Since we are talking about the skin, this is the insoluble fiber, and it's brilliant for keeping your bowel regular, because we need that insoluble fiber that does not digest, so that it acts like a broom and it pushes through the gut and allows us to have regular bowel movements. But the flesh of the potato contains a lot of soluble fiber. Now we have one school of thought that says, well, it's so high in starch and so full of carb, and it's a wicked vegetable, and stay away from it. But at the same time, the flesh is what contains all the soluble fiber, and soluble fiber is brilliant for feeding the gut bacteria. We know that the microbiome of the gut is so important. What makes our immune systems even stronger. So we need to make sure that we feed the bacteria, and one way of doing it is giving it soluble fiber. But soluble fiber is also really good to give us, with our regular bowel movements, good stool formation, so that we able to get rid of waste in the best, most efficient manner. But it also controls glucose levels and controls cholesterol levels. So really a good a vegetable to eat again. I can't see anything bad of potatoes as I go through this list with you. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is actually two things I keep forgetting. When we were talking about sauteing and frying and roasting potatoes, we tend to do this at very high temperatures. We tend to add oils, which can also break down at high temperatures. But a lot of acrylamide starts forming, and acrylamide is linked to higher risks of cancer, of issues with the brain and the nervous system. So try not to use those methods so that we don't get as much acrylamide forming. And then back to nightshades. So that was the last thing I want to talk about. So nightshades is quite controversial. There is evidence out there talking about it being inflammatory, but I don't think there's enough evidence to support not eating this. Now, nightshades is actually a group of vegetables, which includes the potatoes and tomatoes, eggplants or brinjals, and bell peppers. So those are the suspect veg. So please, people, I urge you to try these vegetables out first before you decide that you don't want them because you were told or you read that they are very inflammatory. Take them out your diet for, especially people with arthritis, fibromyalgia, and if you really take them out of your diet for 2 weeks, 4 weeks even, because each of us is individual. See if your symptoms are less severe, and then you can judge. But often I find that people are afraid of certain vegetables without even trying them, and they stay away from them. But at the same time, they're then denying themselves a lot of the nutrients that are actually found in these particular vegetables. So like lycopene. Lycopene is, tomatoes are a fantastic source of lycopene, and we know that's a powerful antioxidant. So please give these vegetables a chance before you take them out. There are people that are genuinely sensitive to these glycoalkaloids, and it's toxic to them. But please don't think so don't let this be another gluten issue where gluten doesn't affect the whole world, but the whole world thinks now suddenly gluten's this bad thing, and everybody, there's certain classes of people that need to watch it. Watch the intake of gluten. So don't demonize something before you've actually tried it and said, hey, I feel like I'm sensitive to this, and I choose not to have it in my diet, and I will find an equal replacement for this particular veg or even fruit for that matter. So that's it, guys. Just wanted to give you a bit of a lowdown on the potato. But before I go, storing of potatoes. So if we don't want them to be green, and we know that the sprouts and green skin is toxic, and the more greener your potato becomes, and the more it sprouts, it's dangerous, right? It's going to be much more swollen and formed in there, and that is toxic to the system. So I have got these nifty little bags that I bought at Pick and Pay. I can't remember how much they were. They were definitely under 20. And so I stored my potatoes in this so that they're ventilated, and they're out of the sunlight, and they're in a dry place. Do not store your potatoes in the fridge, please, people, because it does change the starch that's found in the potato and makes it much sweeter, like sweeter than a sweet potato. It does not taste nice, and because I like putting my potatoes in a curry, no, it does not taste nice. Which brings me to something I totally forgot about. The last thing, guys, is resistant starch. Potatoes are a good source of resistant starch, and that's why these are really good to have, because the resistant starch takes longer to break down and give you a slower rise in the blood glucose levels. And if you cook potatoes and cool them, when you cook it, you increase the resistant starch, and when you cool it, there's a much bigger quantity of resistant starch. So for people with diabetes, for instance, that are afraid to eat it, I would say cook your potatoes, cool them. You can heat them up again if you want to, or just eat them cold. Maybe it's in a potato salad, or maybe just want to eat them at room temperature. And this also allows you to lower the GI of the potatoes. So you can do so many things with potatoes. You can manipulate them in so many ways. You can add them to so many things that make them a most worthwhile veg to have, a most nutritious vegetable to include in your diet. So that's it, guys. I hope that you have gotten some good information from me and enjoyed my little video. Thanks, guys.